Folks, joining us right now is former Congresswoman and now Mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass. Mayor Bass, always glad to see you. Before we talk about what's happening in California and the craziness in Venezuela, you were there on this day 5 years ago, and it is amazing to me just the sheer ignorance. I'm sitting here while that was playing. I see this tweet right here from Representative Mike Collins, who says, on this day in history in 2021, thousands of peaceful grandmothers and others gathered in Washington, D.C. to take a self guided, albeit unauthorized tour of the U.S. Capitol.
Oh my
And,
goodness.
he goes, earlier that day, President Trump held a rally where supporters walked to the Capitol to exercise their First Amendment right about the irregularities of the 2020 election. During this time, some individuals entered the Capitol, took photos, and explored the building before leaving.
God. Wow. And that's not ignorance, though. I mean, that is just outright lying. But just think about the environment that Trump has created in our country since he came into office, which is I can say anything. And it can be so far from the truth. I remember, and I was just sharing with a colleague that on that day, people asked me, well, were you scared? And Roland, I was so angry. I didn't even get it together to be scared. I was just outraged because I knew if those protesters, rioters looked different, there would have been blood everywhere. They would have never entered the Capitol. They came in the Capitol. They tore as much of it apart as they could. They even went into leader at the time, Kevin McCarthy's office, and vandalized his office. But they were hunting for us, Roland, hunting for us. They wanted to find Pelosi. They wanted to find AOC. They certainly wanted to find leader Hakeem Jeffries. And as I recall, they even went after in a whole nother state his brother who was in Ohio. I mean, he had to be protected. It was absolute craziness. And ironically, it was interesting. I was also sharing this with my colleague that Black people in Washington were kind of like, well, this is the day we don't go out on the street because we know the crazies will be here. And I remember saying to my family, they were like, are you going to go to work today? And I'm like, well, sure, I'm going to be in the Capitol. I'm going to be in one of the safest places in the country. Never in a million years would I would have imagined that I would have to hide because people were hunting us.
Well, that is certainly the case, and their actions are abomination. And then, of course, Donald Trump. For some reason, I don't know how the people, the man's career should have been over. But this also what happens when Republicans were wimps and not convicting him in the United States Senate. He wins in 2024. And what does he do? He pardons them. Now he wants to dole out millions of dollars to those people claiming that they were victims.
Exactly. And I'm not sure, you might know, Roland, if any of them got elected because a number of them started running for Congress. And the idea, and again, you just imagine Black Lives Matter, the protests that happened around George Floyd. Oh my goodness, they would have never made it in. And I was very fortunate because I happened to walk down the hall and I was probably about 5 to 10 minutes ahead of them. They were just beginning to tear down the stage and to get violent. But again, I still didn't think that they would be able to enter the building.
Well, and of course, what's unfortunate is that they had co-conspirators on that day.
That's
They were
right.
serving in the House, serving in the Senate, and unfortunately, they're still there.
Well, let me just tell you that one of my staff members at the time, I had to have her talk to the FBI because she overheard a conversation of, oh, don't worry, it was the day before. She saw these people walking down the hall, strangers walking down the hall and talking to each other, saying, well, don't worry, Congressman so and so will let us in. And I will tell you what people often forget is that you remember this was COVID. The building was empty. There was nobody there but members of Congress. Even their staff wasn't there at that time. And so to see somebody walk down the hall looked very, very strange. And people noticed that. And my staff noticed that. So I had her talk to the FBI because it implicated one of the members of Congress being complicit.
Absolutely, that is the case. I do want to ask you a couple of questions on some other topics. One, what continues to happen in Venezuela? Look, California has a number of Venezuelans in that country, Florida as well, and you have people who are celebrating Maduro being snatched by Trump. But we also know through history what happens when America starts trying to run other countries. There were Iraqis who were hailing American intervention with Saddam Hussein, and then later 1 million Iraqis were killed
Right.
in that country, and that country has not been the same since. It is still ISIS took over, and it's in a state of disrepair.
24 years later. We know how to break Humpty Dumpty, but we do not know how to put him back together again. And you remember the intervention. I remember George Bush's press conference where he talked about shock and awe. We're going to be only be in. It's going to be very short. The Iraqis are going to welcome us with flowers and embrace us. And we never thought about what happens the next day, what happens the day after. And I guarantee you they have no plans for what they mean when they say they're going to run Venezuela. Hey, they can't figure out how to run the United States. So why would we think that they would be able to run Venezuela under the auspices of drugs when the month before he pardoned somebody that had been convicted? The Honduran president had been convicted of drug trafficking. Now, maybe he was set up too. But Roland, I found it very ironic that he chose to send Maduro to New York City. Mayor Mondani didn't even have 72 hours before he had his first crisis. And if you remember, Abbott sent tens of thousands of Venezuelans to New York. So, of course, you had crowds cheering him, but Mondani's base would be against an intervention like that. So you set him up, and he's going to be there. Maduro in this trial could be going on for a very long time. Now, when we captured Noriega, and you remember Panama, because that's one of the problems with our American culture, we have memories of a nanosecond. Well, we went in and we kidnapped Noriega on the guise of drug trafficking. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, and we took him to Miami, and he was convicted and died in prison in Miami. Why'd they take him to New York? It's very hard for me not to connect the new mayor with Maduro going to New York, and then. But I think that Trump was honest the next day. He forgot all about the drugs. He was just talking about the real deal, which is the oil. And it'll be interesting to look at those companies and see who contributed, who was going to help pay for the ballroom. You know,
It goes to show you what happens when an idiot is put back into the White House. I do have to ask you this here. You're dealing with so many different issues there. Give our folks an update on what's happening as a result of those wildfires. Altadena trying to rebuild. There are folks who want to rebuild homes, and so what's happening in Los Angeles so many months after the devastating wildfires there?
right. Tomorrow marks the 1 year anniversary. And just so everybody understands, Los Angeles County has multiple cities in it. The city that I have,
Hmm.
the neighborhood that I have jurisdiction over is Pacific Palisades. Altadena is outside of the boundaries of the city of Los Angeles. It's an unincorporated neighborhood. And so within the Palisades, which obviously is a very different type of neighborhood, we have over 400 homes that are actively under construction now. I was in two homes this morning where one, they look as though they're going to be able to move in the next 6 months. Actually, both of them, it looked like they might be moving in the next 6 months. That is absolute record speed. Now, we have approved the rebuilding of 800 homes, so 400 of those are actively being constructed now. People are running into all sorts of problems, but most of the problems are related to insurance, financing, and their mortgages. And so people are still struggling. There's a lot of grief and trauma, especially coming off the holidays. But we have a full court press, all hands on deck in terms of getting every Palisadian that wants to return home back home.
And that particular point right there, again, so many people who don't even understand the geographical
Yes.
boundaries there, blaming you for things that have to do with the county as opposed to Los
Malibu, a
Angeles.
separate city. People wondering why is she just concerned about one neighborhood that happens to be very wealthy. and not very diverse. Well, Palisades is the only area it within the city of Los Angeles.
The psyche of folks, obviously the mental aspect as well. I mean, listen, people are still dealing with the trauma of
Right.
that as well. And so, how have you and city officials have been working with folks on that? Because again, to lose everything, to lose your home and all your belongings and clothes and everything, and have to completely restart your life, is very difficult, especially this economic climate.
Well, also, and if you think of both ends of the life cycle, people in their 80s who've been living in those homes for a long time who are not particularly wealthy. They paid off their mortgages many, many years ago and were living very comfortably on a fixed income. And then they have to start over again. And it'll be a question as to whether or not many of them are able to do that. Or if you were young with a younger family, you've now relocated and moved your children to another area, and will you come back? And so there is just the trauma is profound, because you didn't just lose a building, you lost your memories, your sense of belonging, your sense of community. And even if you didn't lose your home, there are people who don't want to go back because they have no neighbors anymore, or just to live in an area where you have thousands of homes. There were 5,000 homes lost in the Palisades, and you're on a block where you're the only house standing. Do you want to be in the middle of a construction site? So the trauma, and again, of course, it's accentuated because we're coming off the holidays. And even though things are going fast, people still aren't there whose homes were burnt down. People whose homes were damaged, especially smoke related damage, a lot of those individuals have returned. But again, it's still the sense of community. There's no grocery stores, there's no banks. We are paying attention to the community space. We will be opening a temporary library soon. We will be breaking ground on a rec center that is a partnership with the LA Lakers. And so paying attention to the community space, we think is very important. We've already opened up one of the playgrounds that was lost. We feel while we're rushing to rebuild the homes, the commercial area is critically important as well. Been a very, very, very painful year because, Roland, I mean, the first 6 months of the year, and really it's been all year long, of course, was the fires. But then right when we're able to exhale for a minute, then we get invaded by the US military, with an administration gone rogue. And the immigration raids affected everyone in the city. Los Angeles, 3.8 million people, just about 50% of the city is Latino. 9% of the city is African American. People are often shocked by those numbers, thinking that the Black population is a lot larger than that. And so, given that it affected every aspect of our city, the raids, which, by the way, you may not know, they continue every day. They're just not as dramatic. It's not necessarily as many of them, but there's still, Border Patrol and ICE roaming the cities, snatching people out of car washes, off of lawns, doing landscaping, and chasing people in Home Depot parking lots.
Indeed, indeed. So, well, we hope the folks there get all the help that they need when it comes to rebuilding, and so we appreciate you joining.
We're
Huh?
very excited. Can I give you some good news? We're very excited about
Yeah.
2026. We have the All-Star basketball game in February. We have the US Open for golf for women in May. And then we have 8 games of the World Cup in June. So yes, we are a city that was very traumatized in 2025, but we are regrouping, and focused on all of the wonderful events in 2026.
Well, I'll be there. I'll be in Los Angeles for the NBA All Star Game weekend.
You
So
better.
definitely looking forward to that. And then that 2 weeks later, because the NAACP Image Awards
Yeah,
are there, and so hopefully we get nominated again. So I will see you at festivities there in Los Angeles, Mayor.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Roland.
I
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.